Not your usual intro, guys, but shout out my boys Jeeshan and Vishwa. I'm one of their friends. My name's Leon. They've given me the opportunity, guys, to just tell you about a business I've started. I want to introduce you to Project One Vintage. So basically, we are an online vintage retailer based in London. And what else can I say? We love vintage clothes. And we know you love vintage clothes too. You know, as advocates of sustainability, we want to protect our environment too. What better place than vintage clothes? So at Project One Vintage, right now we've got a range of sportswear from America, especially our Champion collaboration, which you guys really got to check out on our website. Going to be having way more stock in, some hoodies, some sweatshirts around mid-August, but I'd really appreciate if you guys could check out project1vintage.com. I'll ask the boys to link the website in the bio and the Instagram page, and I hope to see you guys soon on this channel. Peace.
Hey guys, welcome back to Unknown Capital. Today we're going to be discussing the GOATs of the UFC. We have four main ones that we're going to be talking about today, mainly. So we have the Spider, Anderson Silva, we have Iceman Chuck Liddell, we have obviously the welterweight king, GSP, and finally we have Jon Jones. I don't know why that took me so long to say, but Jon Jones, I don't know why I forgot that. But yeah, we'll also be discussing honorable mentions too, so let's get straight into the video.
Okay, let's start with Jon Jones. He's a light heavyweight champion, but sadly now, because of money dispute, he's left the UFC. But arguably, he's one of the best light heavyweight champions of the world and one of the GOAT. He's got a UFC record of 26 wins, 1 loss, 1 no contest. But everyone thinks in the community that 1 loss which he got was disqualification, and he didn't really mean to do it. It was a 12-6 elbow, but he has a very good record, and he's beaten the likes of Daniel Cormier, Rito Belfort, Rashad Evans, Anthony Smith, and these are really good fighters. He stopped one of the best people, Daniel Cormier, who's a heavyweight champion, who was a former heavyweight champion and a light heavyweight champion. He's beat DC not once but twice. As some people say, I did so good the first time, I had to do it twice. That's what he did. That's what he did. But with DC's record, with Jon Jones, many people argue that he's not the best because he's had some troubles in the past. So first, he was on the juice. He's been tested positive for many things in 4 different UFC events. UFC 232, that's when he fought Alexander Gustafsson, but where that to move from Vegas to LA, where he lost everyone lost 10% of the purse, and then UFC 214, which was a known contest against Daniel Cormier. Then UFC 200 and UFC 182. But with Jon Jones, what everyone said makes him great is his ability with everything with mixed martial art. His stand-up's really good. His takedown defense is really good. His takedowns are really good as well. He's all the people he's fought, he's looked light years ahead of them, except Dominic Reyes. But with someone who started champion at the age of 23, he's been the champion for one of the longest, even though he's had the problems in his life before. He has the problems in life before, but what makes him the GOAT is what he's proven that one of the youngest champ at the age of 23, and he's been doing it for this long, and he's beaten so many good fighters. But what everyone wants to see from Jon Jones is see if he can go to heavyweight division and if he can prove himself there. But I think he should be in the GOAT status right now, because this is what made him great, and he's always going to be a great fighter because he's done so well.
And the crazy thing about him is that he's very creative. He always tries new things on the bag. You see him doing different types of elbows. You've seen him cut out people with his elbows, and no one has seen him do new things as much as he does. He likes to experiment. He experiments even during the fight, and that's what makes Jon Jones so special. Let's move on to GSP John St. Pierre, the king of the welterweight division. Man, this guy, how can you be undefeated for 10 long years in a sport like the MMA where anything can happen, and he was that dominant? It's a bit crazy, isn't it? And to go on a 13-fight win streak with 9 title defenses, beating the likes of BJ Penn, Nick Diaz, Josh Crossquet, even beating Matt Hughes twice, we can't discuss the losses. Yeah, he did lose to Matt Serra and Matt Hughes, having the record of 26-2. But the rematches, he was a complete dominant force. Matt Serra might have beaten him, Jon St. Pierre with TKO, but he came back, taking him down and putting him to the ground and beating him up, and it was just insane. The way he dominated in the rematch just shows he was in another level in that welterweight division. And even with Matt Hughes may have submitted him with an armbar, but he came back on the second fight, beating him with a TKO, and for the third fight, he got Matt Hughes back with the armbar. And the most amazing thing about Jon St. Pierre is that he was so dominant. He was the most well-rounded fighter that we've ever seen. In the UFC, he has the most strikes landed to this day, with 2,591 strikes landed. And this is the crazy part. He also leads in the number of takedowns. Imagine that, strikes and takedowns. And he leads in both categories. This is how dominant Jon St. Pierre is, and it's all thanks to his coach Firas Zahabi. Firas Zahabi is one of the most popular coaches in the UFC. Really believing in the philosophy of the flow state while training. That's why Jon St. Pierre is so healthy to this day, that he's doing backflips at age 40 just for fun, which is insane. But my favorite part of the Jon St. Pierre story, is that he went away for 4 years from the UFC just to come back and to go up a weight class to face the champion, former champion Michael Bisping, and to beat him with a rear naked choke. Man, there's nothing better than Jon St. Pierre, honestly. And if you compare him to people like Anderson Silva and Jon Jones, the thing is with Jon St. Pierre, there's no controversy. He was never involved with any of that juice stuff. He was never involved with the steroids that Anderson Silva was caught with. He was one of the most clean, truest, and one of the best martial artists that we've ever seen in that octagon. And I personally think that he's the GOAT.
But what everyone just doesn't rate Jon St. Pierre is that they wanted him to go up a division and fight Anderson Silva. But by the time Anderson Silva was doing his own thing, and then Jon St. Pierre was doing his own thing. But I think personally Jon St. Pierre is the GOAT. But what would I really love to see is him to go up division a bit earlier. One of the pioneers of UFC. He made UFC cool. So with Chuck Liddell, he has a record of 21-9. But most of his loss came toward the end of his career. Towards the end of his career, his chin left him. So with many fighters right now, you see in UFC, like the older they get, they lose the stamina and then the chin they go. Because because of Chuck Liddell, he fought for so long. He had a 20-year MMA career. That's crazy. He started in 1998 and he had his last fight in 2018. That's a 20-year career. And when you're fighting in the light heavyweight division, it's just full of people who have so much punching power. And I feel like with why everyone says Chuck Liddell is the goal of the UFC is because when UFC started in 1998, he was a person who made UFC cool. He got to the mainstream image, because before that everyone thought UFC was just a full of people who were just like crooked in the head and couldn't fight properly, which is a bunch of street thugs. But he made UFC cool. So he fought like the likes of Randy Couture, he fought Vitor Belfort, he fought Tito Ortiz, and Tito Ortiz against Chuck Liddell was one of the biggest UFC rivals. There had 3 fights in UFC and twice Chuck Liddell came on top. But why Chuck Liddell is so good, because he had that. When UFC first started, there was a lot of grapplers and people didn't know how to fight. But he had a very good kickboxing. His kickboxing was so good, because before he came to UFC, he had a kickboxing record of 21-0 losses. So he was clearly a talent, and he clearly showed the talent. But with him, he comes to the GOAT status, but I don't think he's like fully the GOAT. Which I would love him to see is go up one division and then become a 2-time division champion. I think two-time division champion is something very important. And I know you didn't watch UFC when it was thing, but he made UFC, like he pioneered it with that. Dana White still pays him unto this day. They're paying $500,000 to keep out of MMA because he fought UFC for so long that his chin gave up, and I think he's helped so many fighters come up now. Like he's a major part and a major thing in making UFC.
Let's talk about Anderson Silva, the Spider. According to Joe Rogan, in his prime, he was the greatest mixed martial artist that we've ever seen. Trying new things in the octagon continuously after each and every fight. He was very good at trapping his opponents, setting a lot of traps and catching them with like unorthodox hits and which we've never ever seen before. We kind of compare him to someone like Jon Jones. Jon Jones is very creative in that way too, and even in the octagon, both of them just tend to experiment with different hits and different kicks, and we've never really seen that in the UFC before, especially at that time where the UFC was just full of a bunch of grapplers and maybe heavy hitters, but we've never seen someone so technically gifted. We've never seen someone so skillful in his stand-up and even in his ground game, where he was able to submit Chael Sonnen after 4 rounds of a beating, and in the 5th round was one of the greatest comebacks we've ever seen, is submit Chael Sonnen, which was so funny because we've never seen Anderson Silva be disrespected besides Chael Sonnen. And Anderson Silva is special because he captivated the audience, making us feel that he was undefeatable. Well, he was, with 10 title defenses, and he was running the middleweight division for 7 years, and then even moving up to 205, where we see him face Forrest Griffin. Oh my god. I mean, if you want to know how skillful Anderson Silva is, especially in the stand-up, just watch that fight. The way he moves, his head movement, and he knocks him out with a jab. Imagine Forrest Griffin was running into him, swinging, and then he just jabs him and he drops him, and then the referee didn't even wave his hand. Forrest Griffin was on the floor waving his hand up, and he was like, no, he can't take no more. Pray for this guy. Honestly, even to the day he's laughing about it looking back. And Anderson Silva is just amazing in many ways, but unfortunately, right now, in his last 7 fights, he's only won 2 and lost all 5. After Chris Weidman destroyed him. Like, the first fight, we see Anderson Silva taunting him a lot, and then just Chris Weidman with one punch knocks him out. Thank you for the little sketches that you're doing for me right now. But then even in the second fight, we saw him go through a horrific leg break where his tibia and fibula broke as his leg kick got checked really well by Chris Weidman, and then he was out for a year. But unfortunately for Anderson Silva, he failed 2 drug tests with steroids, and right now towards the end of his career, it kind of taints his legacy. But people pick Anderson Silva over Jones St. Pierre because Jones St. Pierre will wear you down for 5 rounds. Sorry about that. He will wear you down for 5 rounds, and he wouldn't finish as quickly as Anderson Silva would, where Anderson Silva will clinch you, and you can see how brutal his knees were towards his opponents, in their heads, into their body, and it was just so brutal, and that's why people pick Anderson Silva over Georges St. Pierre. But personally, if you look at Anderson Silva towards the end of his career, he could have just stopped, but instead he kept on carrying on. And that kind of taints his legacy, and plus with the drugs and all the juice and all that, it just really did taint his legacy. But in that prime, we've never seen anyone so dominant, a vicious finisher like Anderson Silva.
2, 1, go.
Also, we want to give some honorable mentions, even though these people won't get the GOAT status, but some of them could be working towards it. So let's take the instance for the women division. Amanda Nunes, she is so good. She's unbeatable. She's a 2-weight champion, and she's defending both belts. With most 2-weight champions you see, they do 1 belt and then they give it up. They weaken it, they go back, they go up. But Amanda Nunes, she ain't going to do that shit. She says she can hold 2 belts together and fight both weight classes. And she looks unbeatable. Like, anyone she's fought, she looks light years ahead of them. And also, let's talk about Demetrius Johnson. He's very underrated because as most UFC fans, they love the lightweight division from the featherweight division above. They don't really care about the flyweight
Bantamweight.
or the bantamweight thing. But Demetrius Johnson did so well. He beat Henry Cejudo. He had a 9 win streak. He defended his title, and then but sadly he went to one Pride. So I feel he could have done more in the UFC, but he moved on to one. And then we have more people who are trying to create the legacy. Khabib 28-0. That just speaks for himself. Anyone else? Michael Bisping, the first ever British champion, who came through, who beat, what's his name? Oh, he's not Luke Rockhold with 14 days notice.
That was crazy.
He's done crazy things. Danny Cormier, who's a two-weight champion, but because with Danny Cormier they don't give him the GOAT status yet because he was a champion when Jon Jones left, so people still think he's not the best. But I think he has to get honorable mention. Anyone else who comes to my mind? Not really. So I think this is the honorable mentions which are people who could become a GOAT one day, or we have to still see a bit more. But I think this is some honorable mentions which had to be said, or the keyboard warriors would come for us.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and comment what you think. We would love to discuss with you in the comments as well. Finally, we have redesigned the whole channel so that finally this is our channel now. Our channel now. And please subscribe for more videos that are coming in the future, because we've got better quality videos and more suited for everyone. And this is truly the beginning, and we're going to keep loving the process, and let's see how it goes. Thank you. Peace out.